When I stopped at the supermarket to buy a cake before visiting my daughter-in-law's family, the cashier suddenly grabbed my hand and whispered something shocking. I walked out the back door and hid to watch. Only 5 minutes later, I saw my son's mother-in-law doing something that froze my blood. Sometimes life gives you no warning. It changes everything in the blink of an eye. A whisper in your ear, a cursed word, and suddenly your heart shrinks as if it were being stabbed. That day, it happened to me on a Tuesday afternoon while walking through the supermarket aisles with the sweet smell of bread and the fake shine of the waxed floor beneath my feet. My name is Eleanor. I am 67 years old, with hands weathered from working since I was 14, and a heart that still beats strong despite the scars. That day, like so many others, I just wanted to do something simple. I wanted to buy a carrot cake to take to my daughter-in-law, Jessica. It was her 33rd birthday, and although our relationship had always been, let's say, lukewarm, I kept trying to build bridges, because that is how I was raised. Because you do not abandon family. Because I believe naively that love eventually wins all battles. The supermarket was half empty. My worn shoes squeaked against the floor as I pushed the cart toward the bakery section. I had chosen my best mustard-colored blouse, the one my late husband Robert gave me 15 years ago. I had combed my hair carefully, gathering my gray hair into a low bun. I wanted to look presentable. I wanted my son Matthew to be proud of his mother. How naive I was. I chose the nicest cake I could afford, $20. It was not cheap for my pension of $1,200 a month, but a mother's love is not measured in money, right? Or at least that is what I believed then. I placed it carefully in the cart, imagining the smiles of my grandchildren when they saw it. Alex, 7 years old, and Sophie, 4, my loves, my reasons to keep getting up every morning. I arrived at the register where Kevin always served me. He is a skinny boy of about 25, with tattoos on his arms and a kind smile. I had known him for 2 years. He always helped me bag groceries, asked about my health, and called me Mrs. Eleanor with genuine affection. That kind of kindness is scarce these days. But when I put the cake on the belt, Kevin did not smile. He looked at me with a strange expression, nervous and uncomfortable. His eyes darted to the sides as if checking that no one was watching us. He scanned the cake's barcode with trembling hands. "That is $20, Mrs. Eleanor," he said in a low voice. I took out my old synthetic leather wallet, the one peeling at the corners, and counted the bills carefully. Just as I handed him the money, Kevin leaned forward. His hand brushed mine. It was not an accidental touch. It was deliberate, urgent. "Ma'am, excuse me for meddling where I am not called," he whispered so quietly I almost did not hear him. "But 20 minutes ago, your daughter-in-law's mother, Mrs. Brenda, came in." My heart did a strange flip. Brenda, Jessica's mother. That woman who always treated me with a fake smile, the kind that never reaches the eyes, who called me mother-in-law with a tone that sounded more like mockery than affection. "What happened?" I asked, feeling my mouth go dry. Kevin swallowed hard. His look was one of genuine concern. "She bought exactly the same cake you just bought, the carrot cake." She put it in her cart and paused as if he did not want to continue. She was talking on the phone very loudly. She said something that, well, I do not know if I should tell you. "Tell me." My voice came out firmer than I felt. She said, "Let the old hag not even dare to arrive empty-handed. But anyway, when she arrives with her cheap little cake, you know what to do, honey. You reject it in front of everyone. Let her see who the grandmother is that is really worth it." The world stopped. The fluorescent lights of the supermarket seemed to get brighter, more aggressive. The sound of the other cash registers turned into a distant buzz. I felt the blood rushing to my cheeks, a mixture of shame, rage, and something worse. Confirmation. That horrible feeling that something I already suspected in silence turned out to be true. "Are you sure?" I whispered, although I knew Kevin had no reason to lie to me. "Yes, ma'am. I am very sorry. I thought I should tell you. It is not right what they are planning to do to you." I nodded slowly. I took my boxed cake and my change with hands that were now shaking. Kevin held my gaze with compassion. "Thank you, son," I managed to say. "Really, thank you." I left that register as if walking on automatic pilot. My legs moved on their own while my mind tried to process what I had just heard. A trap. They were preparing a trap to humiliate me, to make me look ridiculous in front of my own family. But I was no fool. Instead of going straight to the main parking lot, I walked toward the back exit of the supermarket. There is a small loading area where few people pass. From there, you can see the main entrance perfectly without being seen. I hid behind a dumpster, feeling my heart pounding against my chest. 5 minutes. That was all it took for me to see the truth with my own eyes. A silver SUV parked right in front. I recognized that SUV. Brenda got out of the driver's seat, wearing huge sunglasses, high heels, and a coral dress that screamed, "Look at me." She opened the trunk and started taking out bags. Many bags. From expensive stores. And in the middle of them all, a cake identical to mine. But that was not the worst part. She took out her phone and dialed a number. She put it on speaker. I heard Jessica's voice on the other end. "Are you arriving, Mom?" "Almost there, my life. I have everything ready. The fancy cake, the gifts for the kids, everything. When your mother-in-law arrives with her garbage from the supermarket. You remember the plan, right?" Jessica laughed. A sharp, cruel laugh. "Of course, Mom. I reject it in front of everyone. I say we already ate yours. I need Matthew to see clearly who the mother-in-law is that really suits us, the one with money and class. Exactly, honey. We almost managed to get that old nuisance out of our lives. Give it a couple more months and Matthew will cut ties with her all by himself. After all, we already got everything we could out of her. That fool has nothing left to offer." The words hit me like punches to the stomach. Every syllable was a broken glass burying itself in my skin. I stood paralyzed behind that dumpster, clutching my bag with the cake against my chest as if it were a shield. The tears wanted to come out, but I did not let them. Not yet. Because in that moment, something broke inside me, but also something ignited. Brenda hung up the phone, arranged all her bags, and entered the supermarket, swaying her hips as if she were on a runway. I stayed there, hiding like a thief in my own life, watching my family plan to destroy me. And it was in that precise instant when I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Because it is one thing to suspect they do not love you. It is another very different thing to hear with your own ears how they plan to erase you from history. But they did not know who they were messing with. And I was just starting to wake up. If this story is touching something inside you, stay until the end. Because what comes next will leave you breathless. And if you believe someone else needs to hear this, share this story. Like and subscribe to keep accompanying me in these life tales that hurt, but also heal. I remained hidden behind that dumpster for almost 15 more minutes. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed to think. I needed to understand how deep this betrayal I had just discovered went. The afternoon sun beat down on the back of my neck. I felt sweat running down my back, soaking my mustard blouse. But I did not move. I observed every detail, every movement, as if I were watching a horror movie where the protagonist was myself. Brenda returned from the supermarket carrying more bags. This woman did not stop. Boxes of fine chocolates, bottles of wine that I recognized because once I saw their prices and almost fainted. $50 each, metallic balloons with the numbers 33 shining under the sun. A bouquet of flowers so big she could barely hold it. Everything was a show, a damn spectacle staged to humiliate me. She arranged everything in her SUV with care, as if they were jewels. Then she took out her phone again. This time, she did not put it on speaker, but I was close enough to hear fragments. "Yes, honey, I am on my way. Everything went perfectly. No, relax. That woman suspects nothing. Ha, of course she's going to arrive with her miserable little gift. When she sees everything I am bringing, she is going to be left looking like what she is, an old woman without resources." Every word was pure poison. But what came next was worse. Much worse. Brenda kept talking while checking her reflection in the SUV window, adjusting her hair dyed a blonde that screamed cheap salon, trying to look expensive. "Matthew is already convinced that you deserve everything, Jessica. You told him that your mom is going to put up the $50,000 for the down payment on the new house. Right? Perfect. Let him believe that. By the time he realizes I do not have that money, the house will already be in your name only, and he will not be able to do anything." My blood froze. $50,000. A house. My son. My Matthew, the boy I carried in my arms for months when he had that terrible fever at 2 years old. The same one I paid for college for by selling my land in the countryside. That land my father left me valued at $100,000, which was my only backup for old age. And now it turned out that these two vipers were using my own money, my own sacrifice to build a future where I had no place. Brenda kept talking more and more animated, as if she were narrating the perfect plan of a movie. We already put it in his head that his mom is old-fashioned, that she does not understand the needs of a modern family. In 2 more months, when he signs the deed, you convince him that they no longer need her in their lives. That old woman is going to end up alone in her little house without grandchildren, without anything. I could not contain myself anymore. I took out my cell phone with trembling hands. I am not an expert in technology, but my grandchildren had taught me how to record audio. I pressed the record button just as Brenda continued her monologue of evil. "Besides, Jessica, think about it properly. Your mother-in-law already gave everything she could give. The $10,000 you got out of her 6 months ago with that urgent medical expenses story was the last blow. That fool did not even ask what the money was for. She just signed the promissory note and that was it. Now she is dry without resources. She is no longer useful to us. $10,000. That amount echoed in my head like a scream. 6 months ago, Jessica had called me crying. She told me that Alex, my oldest grandson, needed an urgent operation, that insurance did not cover it, that they needed $10,000 or my grandson could lose the sight in one eye. I cried with her. I trembled with fear for my grandson. And without thinking twice, I took out all the money I had saved. Money I had gathered for 3 years working as a seamstress from home, mending pants until my fingers hurt. Money that was for my medicines for some emergency. I gave it all to them. And Alex never had any operation because he was never sick. The recording kept running on my phone. Brenda was laughing now, a laugh that churned my stomach. "Matthew is so easy to manipulate, honey. You just have to cry a little, tell him that your mom is your only ally, and he gets on your side. Men are like that weak, especially when they have a pretty wife who knows how to handle them." And if the old lady gets difficult, I heard Jessica's voice on the other end now with a worried tone. "Difficult?" Brenda let out a loud laugh. "That woman has been a doormat all her life. She is not going to change now. Besides, what can she do? Cry to her son. Matthew is already on our side. Sue. She does not have money even for a lawyer. She is alone, old and finished. We already won, my love." The conversation ended. Brenda got into her SUV and drove off toward my son's house. To the party where I was supposed to arrive in an hour, knowing nothing to be humiliated as the main course of entertainment. I stayed there with my phone still recording, with my $20 cake in my hand and with a brutal clarity in my heart. For 67 years, I had been good, obedient, self-sacrificing. I had swallowed insults, kept silent when I should have spoken, gave everything without asking for anything in return, because that is how I was taught, because I believed that was the correct way to love. But in that moment, watching that silver SUV full of lies and falseness drive away, I made a decision. I was not going to be their doormat anymore. I was not going to arrive at that party as the foolish old woman they expected to humiliate. I was going to go yes, but not as the submissive Eleanor they knew. I was going to go to this recording on my phone with the truth in my hands, and with something they never imagined. I had the determination of a woman who has nothing left to lose. I put my cell phone in my purse. I breathed deeply. I looked at the cake I had bought with so much love, and for a moment I thought about throwing it in the trash. But I did not. I put it carefully in my old car, because that cake was the proof of my genuine love. And maybe, just maybe, at the end of this story, it would serve to remind me who I really was. I started the engine. My hands were no longer shaking, because the war had just begun, and they had no idea that the submissive old woman had just woken up. I drove toward my son's house with my stomach in a knot. The journey I normally made with excitement now felt like walking toward the gallows. But this time was different. This time I knew exactly what awaited me. I decided to arrive late on purpose, 30 minutes late. I wanted Brenda to feel safe, confident, victorious. I wanted to see how far they were capable of going with their rehearsed little theater. Because it is one thing to hear the plan, it is another very different thing to see how it is executed with your own eyes. I parked my car 2 houses away. I needed a moment, just a moment to breathe, to mentally prepare myself for what was coming. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror, my brown eyes tired but now alert, my skin marked by time and the sun. The wrinkles around my mouth that used to embarrass me now seemed like war medals. I touched up the peach-colored lipstick I had put on with so much care that morning. I adjusted my bun, smoothed my mustard blouse, and took the carrot cake with the same delicacy with which one holds their dignity firm, but aware of how fragile it can be. Matthew and Jessica's house was in a nice gated community. Nothing ostentatious but decent. I had helped with $15,000 for the down payment when they bought it 3 years ago. Another loan they never paid back. Another piece of my life given without thinking. I rang the doorbell. I heard laughter inside. Voices. Music. The door opened and there was Matthew, my son, 35 years old, tall like his father, with those eyes that as a child looked at me with adoration. Now they looked at me with discomfort, annoyance. "Mom," he said without smiling, "you are late." "Sorry, son. There was traffic." I lied, keeping my voice calm. He did not hug me. Before he always hugged me. Now he just stepped aside to let me pass like someone letting in a salesman they did not ask for. I entered the house and the atmosphere hit me like a frozen slap. Everything was decorated with pink and gold balloons. There was a table full of food professional catering that must have cost a fortune. And in the center, like the centerpiece of an altar, was Brenda's cake. 3 tiers decorated with edible flowers and gold letters that said, "Happy birthday, Jessica." My $20 cake looked like a child's toy next to that $100 masterpiece. Mother-in-law Jessica's voice rang out from the living room. She came out in a coral dress that matched perfectly with her mother's. A coincidence, surely. She greeted me with 2 air kisses, the kind that do not touch the skin. "It is so good you came. We thought you would not arrive anymore." Her tone was sweet. "Too sweet, like poisoned honey. I would not miss it for anything," I replied, holding out the cake. "I brought you this. I know you like carrot cake." Jessica looked at the cake as if I were offering her trash. Her smile froze for a second. Then she looked toward the table where her mother's cake reigned. "Oh, mother-in-law, it is just that." She made a perfectly rehearsed, dramatic pause. "My mom already brought cake. In fact, we already cut it and ate a piece." "Right, my love?" Matthew nodded from the armchair without even looking me in the eyes. "Yes, Mom, we already ate cake." The lie was so obvious it hurt. Brenda's cake was intact without a single cut. The candles were not even lit yet. But there they were waiting for me to swallow the humiliation in silence. At that moment, Brenda appeared from the kitchen like the main star of the show. She was wearing heels that made her look taller, long earrings that sparkled with every movement, and that shark smile I already knew so well. "My dear friend," she said to me, using that fake term of familiarity. "Oh, what a shame you arrived late. We already did the main celebration, but do not worry, there is still food." "And cake," added Jessica, pointing to the 3-tier tower. "My mom outdid herself. She had it made at the best French bakery in town. It cost $100, but well, for my daughter, nothing is too expensive." The emphasis on my daughter was deliberate. As if I were nobody's mother, as if my relationship with Matthew meant nothing. "It is beautiful," I said, still holding my cake like a shield. "But I brought this one anyway. I thought we could have 2. Kids always want more sweets." Jessica exchanged a look with her mother. A complicit look that said, "Here comes the part we rehearsed. It is just that we do not want the kids to eat too much sugar." "Mother-in-law," said Jessica, with that condescending tone used to speak to confused, elderly people. "Besides, my mom's cake is made of gourmet ingredients, organic without preservatives. Not like the supermarket ones that are full of chemicals." There it was, humiliation served on a silver platter. I looked around. My grandchildren were playing in the garden, oblivious to the emotional massacre that was occurring. There were some of Jessica's uncles looking at me with curiosity. There was the next-door neighbor, Teresa, who had always been kind to me. Everyone was a witness to my supposed shame. "I understand," I said, keeping my voice firm. "Where do you want me to put it?" "Oh, leave it there in the kitchen," replied Jessica with a vague gesture, like someone pointing at the trash can. "We will see what we do with it later." I walked toward the kitchen. No one followed me. No one offered help. I put my cake on the kitchen counter next to the dirty dishes, exactly where they wanted. Relegated, forgotten, insignificant. When I returned to the living room, the party continued as if I were invisible. Brenda was sitting in the best armchair surrounded by my grandchildren, showing them the expensive gifts she had brought. A video game console worth $400 for Alex, a designer doll worth $100 for Sophie. "Look what Grandma Brenda brought you," Jessica was saying, using that title that twisted my soul. "Say thank you to Grandma Brenda." The children screamed excitedly. And I, the blood grandmother, the one who had carried them when they were babies, the one who sang them lullabies, stayed standing by the door, holding onto the frame because my legs were shaking. Matthew finally approached me. For a second I thought he was going to hug me to ask me if I was okay, but instead he said in a low voice, "Mom, why do you always have to make things uncomfortable? You knew Brenda was going to bring cake. Why did you bring another one?" I stood looking at him. Really, looking at him, searching in his eyes for some trace of the boy I had raised, of the young man who told me, "Mom, you are the best in the world," of the man who once promised to take care of me when I was old. I found none of that. I only saw a stranger with my son's face. "Because I am your mother, Matthew," I replied in a low voice, "and mothers bring cake to birthdays, even if we are no longer welcome." I did not wait for his answer. I turned around and walked toward the garden where at least I could breathe air that was not poisoned with lies. I sat on a bench under the oak tree, watching everyone celebrate, inside, watching Brenda reign as the perfect matriarch, watching my place in this family be erased with every laugh, with every photo where I did not appear. And there in that garden with the sun setting and the noise of the party as background music, I squeezed my cell phone inside my purse. I still had the recording. I still had the truth. And although they did not know it, the real party was just about to begin. The party continued inside as if I did not exist. I stayed on that garden bench for almost 20 minutes, watching through the windows, observing how my life had become a stage where I no longer had a leading role, not even a supporting role. But I was not broken. I was awake. My eyes scanned every detail of that house I once felt was an extension of my home. And that was when I started noticing things I had ignored before, excused, or simply did not want to see. I entered the house again with a slow step. No one turned to look at me. Perfect. Invisibility is sometimes the best weapon. I walked toward the hallway where the family photos hung. That hallway that used to fill me with pride because it was full of memories. But now, seeing it with new eyes, the truth hit me like a fist to the stomach. There were 12 photographs in total. In 8 of them, Brenda appeared with my grandchildren. Brenda hugging Alex in the park, Brenda holding Sophie at the beach, Brenda at Christmas with both kids opening gifts. Brenda, Brenda, Brenda. I appeared in only 2 photographs. 2. And they were at the very end of the hallway, almost in the dark corner where no one really saw them. One was from Matthew's wedding 8 years ago, where I was still important. The other was from when Alex was born, where I was holding my grandson with tears of happiness in my eyes. Old photos, archived memories, as if I were ancient history. The most recent photos, the ones with nice frames and prominent places, only showed Brenda as the official matriarch of this family. I kept walking. I entered the living room discreetly while everyone remained focused on Brenda telling some exaggerated anecdote that made everyone laugh. I approached the shelf where the family albums were. I took one that said, Memories 2024. I opened it. Page after page of Brenda. Brenda at Alex's birthday. Brenda at the Christmas party. Brenda at Sophie's school festival. Brenda taking the kids to the movies. Brenda buying ice cream. Brenda always Brenda. I searched for any photo of me in that complete album of the last year. There was not a single one. It was as if they had digitally erased me from my own family's life. I closed the album with trembling hands. Rage was beginning to boil under my skin, but I contained it. It was not yet time. I turned around and almost bumped into Teresa, the neighbor. She was a woman of about 50 the kind who always greets you and asks how you are. "Mrs. Eleanor," she said in a low voice, pulling me gently toward the kitchen. "Are you okay?" "Yes, Teresa, just observing." Teresa looked toward the living room where Brenda was still the center of attention. Then she looked at me with genuine concern. "It is not my place to say this, but I have seen things," she whispered. "I have seen how they treat you, since Mrs. Brenda is always here, and since you almost never come anymore. Before I saw you often. What happened?" Her words opened a floodgate I had kept closed for dignity. "What happened is that they erased me, Teresa, little by little, so slowly I did not even realize until today." Teresa squeezed my hand with compassion. Then, hesitating, she added, "Last week I heard Jessica talking to her mom in the garden. I was watering my plants on the other side of the fence. They said that you had already given all your money and that now you were just in the way, that they needed to concentrate on the grandmother who really matters." Every word was a stab, but it no longer surprised me. It was confirmation of what I already knew. "Thank you for telling me, Teresa. You do not deserve this, ma'am. You are good people." I returned to the living room just as Jessica began serving the food. Expensive catering dishes, salmon with capers, gourmet salad, sophisticated canapes. None of what I used to cook for them, my meatloaf, my pot roast, the dishes Matthew loved so much as a child. I sat in a secluded chair. Brenda occupied the head of the table as if she were the owner of the house. Jessica on her right side, Matthew on the left. I ended up at the end next to the uncles I barely knew. During the meal, I heard fragments of conversations that froze my blood. "My mom is going to help us with the down payment for the new house," announced Jessica, loudly glancing at me sideways. $50,000 because my mom does believe in us and our future. Everyone congratulated Brenda. How generous. What a wonderful mother. How lucky Jessica is. I gripped the fork so hard, my knuckles turned white, because I remembered perfectly. 6 months ago, when Jessica got $10,000 out of me with the lie about Alex's operation, she had told me, "Mother-in-law, do not say anything to Matthew. He gets very stressed about money issues. This will stay between us." $10,000 they never paid back. $10,000 that supposedly saved my grandson's sight. $10,000 that I now understood were just the beginning of the looting. And the new house asked one of the uncles, "Did you choose it already?" "Yes," answered Matthew, animated for the first time that night. "It is incredible. 3 bedrooms, large garden, in a very safe community. It costs $400,000, but with Brenda's down payment, we can pay it off in 15 years. "And your mom?" asked the uncle, looking at me. "Is she going to help with something too?" The silence that followed was deafening. Matthew cleared his throat uncomfortably. Jessica looked at her plate. Brenda smiled like a cat that caught the mouse. "My mom does not have many resources anymore," said Matthew finally, as if he were talking about a stranger. "She already helped enough in the past. Now we have to depend on who can really support us." The words went through me like bullets. She already helped enough in the past. As if the $100,000 from my land in the countryside, which I sold to pay for his college, did not count. As if the $15,000 for the down payment of this house, where they now despised me, did not matter. As if the $10,000 from 6 months ago were just forgettable crumbs. "Besides," added Jessica with that tone of sweet poison, "the new house is going to be in my name only to protect the children's assets. My mom advised me to do it that way for legal security, right, Mommy?" Brenda nodded with an air of expertise. "Exactly, honey. In these times, one has to be smart. The house in the wife's name protects the investment." I looked at Matthew, my son, my blood, waiting for him to say something to protest, to defend even a little of his own rights. He said nothing. He just nodded like an obedient dog, and in that moment I understood something devastating. My son was not a victim of manipulation, he was an accomplice. Maybe at the beginning Brenda had handled him, but now he consciously chose to leave me out. He chose to believe them. He chose to hurt me. The meal ended. They brought out Brenda's cake amidst applause. They sang happy birthday. Jessica blew out the candles while everyone took photos. I did not appear in any because no one called me to be in the frame. When they cut the cake, Brenda served the pieces personally. To every guest, to the children, to Matthew, to Jessica. She never offered me any. I stayed sitting in my chair in the corner watching everyone enjoy that $100 cake while my carrot cake remained abandoned in the kitchen like trash no one wants to touch. And there in the middle of that party where I was less than a ghost, I made the final decision. I had seen enough. I had confirmed the full pattern, erasing me from the photos, erasing me from memory, erasing me from the present and the future, all while squeezing me for the last dollar I had. But what they did not know is that ghosts sometimes return, and when they do, they bring with them all the buried truths. The party began to disperse around 9 at night. The uncles were saying goodbye. The children were already yawning, tired after so much sugar and excitement. I was still there, sitting in my chair in the corner, waiting, observing like a wounded animal that still has strength to defend itself. "Mom, it is late," Matthew told me without looking directly at me. "Shouldn't you go now? The drive to your house is long." Translation: "Leave. You already fulfilled your duty of appearing and we no longer need you here." "Let me help clean up first," I replied, standing up. "It is not necessary." Jessica intervened quickly. "My mom is going to stay to help me." "You rest, mother-in-law. You did enough by coming. You did enough." As if my presence were a favor I did them, not a right as a grandmother and mother. "That is fine," I said with a calm voice. "Let me go to the bathroom before I leave." I walked toward the hallway bathroom, the one next to the kitchen, but I did not enter. I stayed hidden in the corner just where the wall makes an angle that turns you invisible if you know how to position yourself well. A skill I learned being a child in a house full of siblings. How to make yourself small. How to listen without being seen. And what I heard in the following 10 minutes changed everything. Jessica and Brenda entered the kitchen. I heard the sound of dishes clinking, the water from the faucet running, and then their voices lowered in volume, but not enough. "Did you see her face when you rejected her cake?" Brenda's voice sounded amused, almost euphoric. She was about to cry. I even felt pity. "Well, not that much." Jessica laughed. A sharp laugh that drove splinters into my chest. "You did it perfectly, Mom. Just like we rehearsed." Matthew did not even defend her. "He is completely on our side now." "Of course he is, honey. Did you see how we announced the new house thing? That old woman wanted to die when you said it was going to be in your name only." I took my cell phone out of my purse. My hands were shaking, but I managed to open the recorder app. I pressed the red button. The recording began capturing every poisonous word. "Do you think she suspects anything?" asked Jessica now with a more nervous tone. Please. She is dumber than I thought. We got $10,000 out of her 6 months ago with the story about Alex's operation, and she did not even ask to see medical receipts. She signed the promissory note, and that was it. A true idiot. I felt bile rising in my throat, but I forced myself to stay still to keep recording. "The problem is that there is no more money to get out of her," continued Brenda. "I already investigated. Her pension is $1,200 a month. Misery. And the land in the countryside she sold years ago for Matthew's college. She has no properties, she has no savings. We already squeezed her until she was dry." "Then why keep pretending we like her?" asked Jessica. "Exactly, my love. That is why the plan is perfect. In 2 months, when Matthew signs the deed for the new house, you convince him that you need space, that his mom is toxic, that she is stressing you out, that the children do not need that negative influence from a bitter old woman. And if she gets difficult, she is not going to get difficult because she is a coward. She has spent her whole life swallowing insults and humiliations. Why would she change now? Besides, without money, she has no power, and without Matthew, she has no access to the grandchildren. She will remain alone in her little house, watching through the window how life goes on without her." The silence that followed was even crueler than the words, as if they were savoring the victory. "The only thing that worries me," said Jessica after a moment, "is that Matthew feels guilt. You know how he is. Sometimes he gets sentimental with his mom. Oh, honey, that is what you are there for. Every time he gets sentimental, you cry. You tell him that his mom makes you feel bad, that she compares you, that she criticizes you. Men hate seeing their wives cry. They are always going to choose the wife over the mother. Always. And what about the $50,000 for the down payment? Jessica's voice sounded worried. Mom, you know we do not have that money. Your business is— Shh, Brenda interrupted her brusquely. Do not talk about that here. No one can know that my business is bankrupt. No one can know that I owe $30,000 on credit cards. No one. My heart beat so hard I feared they could hear it. But Jessica, listen to me. Well, continued Brenda now with a serious voice, by the time Matthew discovers I do not have the $50,000, the house will already be in your name. Only in your name. He won't be able to do anything. And if he gets mad, well, you threaten him with divorce, with taking the children away. Men are weak, honey. They are easily controlled when there are children involved. It is just that I am afraid everything will go wrong. It is not going to go wrong because we hold all the cards. Matthew is already convinced that his mom is a burden. He already signed the promissory note for the $10,000 as a guarantor without even reading it. He already agrees that the house be only in your name. We practically did all the work. Only the final blow is missing, kicking her completely out of our lives. And if she tries to fight, if she goes to Matthew and tells him things— Brenda let out a loud laugh that churned my stomach. Tell him what? That she heard us talking. We will say she is senile, that she is inventing things out of jealousy, that she is trying to separate her own son's marriage because she is a bitter and controlling old woman. Who is Matthew going to believe, his young and pretty wife or his old and resentful mom? You are right. Jessica sounded calmer now. Besides, she has never been one to fight. She always swallows everything. She always forgives. It is her doormat nature. That is why we win, my love, because she is weak and we are strong, because she believes in love and family and we believe in money and power, and in this world, money always wins. I heard glasses clinking. They were toasting, celebrating my destruction as if it were a sports victory. To us, said Brenda. To us, repeated Jessica, and to getting rid of that old nuisance once and for all. They laughed, both of them. Their laughter resonated in that kitchen, like crows cawing over a corpse. I was still there, hidden in my corner, with the phone recording every syllable, every laugh, every macabre plan. Tears ran down my cheeks in silence, but they were no longer tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of indignation, of brutal awakening. I waited for them to leave the kitchen. They walked toward the living room, laughing, still completely oblivious that they had been heard. Oblivious that they had just given me exactly what I needed. I went into the bathroom for real. I closed the door and looked at my reflection in the mirror. My face was red, my eyes swollen, my lipstick smeared. But in those eyes there was also something new, something that had not been there in years. Determination. I washed my face with cold water. I touched up as best I could. I put my phone with the recording in the deepest part of my purse, as if it were the most valuable treasure in the world, and in a way it was. I left the bathroom with firm steps. Jessica and Brenda were in the living room, sitting like queens on their throne of lies. I am leaving now, I announced with a clear voice. Hope it goes well, mother-in-law, said Jessica without even getting up. Matthew appeared to see me off at the door. For a moment, just a moment, I thought about telling him everything right there, screaming the truth at him, showing him the recording. But I did not, because I understood something fundamental. My son needed to hit rock bottom before waking up. He needed to see for himself who the women he had chosen over his own mother really were. Goodbye, son, I said, looking him in the eyes. Sleep well. I walked toward my car under the starry sky. The fresh air hit my face, and for the first time in hours, I could breathe deeply. I started the engine. I looked at the house through the rearview mirror. The lights were still on. The laughter kept ringing. But the war was just beginning. And this time, the old doormat had weapons they never imagined. I did not drive directly to my house that night. I could not. My hands were shaking so much that I had to park at a convenience store 3 blocks from Matthew's house. I turned off the engine, and there alone in the darkness of my old car, I let out everything I had been holding back for hours. I cried. I cried like I had not done since I buried my husband Robert 8 years ago. I cried for the humiliation, for the betrayal, for the stabbing pain of knowing that the people I loved most considered me disposable trash. But above all, I cried for my son, because I can understand Brenda's cruelty. She is a stranger, a woman who owes me nothing, who only seeks her own benefit. I can even understand Jessica's calculating coldness. She never really loved me. I was always just an obstacle in her path. But Matthew is my blood, my creation. The baby who slept in my arms for entire nights when he cried from colic. The boy I defended when others bullied him at school. The young man I supported when everyone said studying architecture was a waste of time. How did we get here? At what moment did I lose my son? I dried my tears with an old napkin I found in the glove compartment. I breathed deeply 3 times, as Robert taught me when anxiety attacked me. And I made a decision. Before planning my next move, I needed to try one last time. I needed to talk to Matthew alone. I needed to know if there was anything left of the boy I raised, or if I had lost him forever. The next day, Wednesday morning, I called his cell phone. He answered on the 4th ring. Mom. His voice sounded annoyed, as if I had interrupted him. What happened, Matthew? I need to talk to you, alone. Can we meet today? There was a long silence. Too long. I am busy, Mom. I have meetings all day. It is important, son. Please, just 1 hour. I heard an exaggerated sigh on the other end. Okay. At 2 in the coffee shop on the corner by my office, but only 1 hour because I have things to do. Before Matthew would have canceled anything to see me. Now he gave me an hour as if I were an annoying client. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. I ordered a black coffee that cost $3 and that I barely touched. My hands would not stop shaking. I mentally rehearsed what I was going to tell him. How was I going to start? How was I going to make him understand, without sounding like a bitter mother? Matthew arrived on time. At least that. He was wearing a gray suit that I had helped him buy 2 years ago when he got his current position as manager. He looked tired, swollen eyes, hunched posture. He sat in front of me without hugging me, without smiling. What did you want to talk about? He asked, directly checking his watch as if he were already counting the minutes to leave. About us, Matthew. About what is happening between us. Nothing is happening, Mom. I am simply busy. I have a family to support responsibilities. You had a mother, too. I interrupted him gently. Or not anymore. Matthew clenched his jaw. He looked away toward the window. Do not start with dramas, please. Drama. Do you think it is drama that yesterday they humiliated me at your wife's party? That they rejected my cake in front of everyone? That they treated me as if I did not matter? Mom, there was already cake. It was not necessary for you to bring another one, and notifying me before, telling me not to bring it, defending me when they made me feel like trash. You are exaggerating things. Jessica did not mean to offend you. It is just that, well, Brenda's cake was more appropriate. The word appropriate hurt me more than a slap. Appropriate, I repeated, feeling my voice break. Is my love not appropriate? Matthew? Are my 67 years of life not appropriate? Is everything I have done for you not appropriate? There you go again. Matthew raised his voice, drawing the attention of other tables. Always throwing in my face what you have done for me. Always reminding me of your sacrifices. You know what, Mom? That was your obligation. You were my mother. It was your duty to raise me, educate me, give me what I needed. The words came out of his mouth like spat poison. I stayed paralyzed, looking at him, searching his face for some indication that he did not mean it seriously, that he was being cruel only because of stress. But his eyes were cold, decided. My obligation, I whispered. Matthew, I sold the land your grandfather left me. The only asset I had $100,000 that were my insurance for old age. I used them to pay for your college because you wanted to be an architect, and the degree was expensive. Was that my obligation? Yes, he replied without hesitation. Parents must give their children education. That does not make you special. I felt something break inside my chest, something that could never be repaired. I gave you $15,000 for the down payment on your house. I continued, my voice now shaking. I worked double shifts for months to gather that money, and I thanked you at the time. What else do you want? A medal for me to be eternally thanking you? I want you to respect me. I finally exploded, hitting the table with the palm of my hand. I want you to treat me like your mother, not like an annoying stranger. I want you to see that Brenda and Jessica are manipulating you. Matthew laughed, a dry laugh without humor. Manipulating me? Mom, please. Brenda is helping us with $50,000 for the new house. She is present for my children. She does understand the needs of a modern family. Not like you, who still lives in the past, believing that with handmade tortillas and unconditional love, it is enough for everything. Every word was a knife plunging deeper. Matthew, my voice broke completely. 6 months ago, I gave you $10,000. Jessica told me that Alex needed an urgent operation, that he would lose the sight in one eye. I signed a promissory note. I gave you all my savings. Do you remember that? Matthew blinked. For the first time in the conversation, I saw a flash of discomfort in his eyes. So I told you we were going to pay you back. But Alex never had any operation, right? The silence that followed gave me the answer. Mom, we needed that money for other things. Household expenses. Jessica was going to explain to you, but you never asked. You simply gave the money and that was it, because they told me my grandson was in danger. How was I not going to give the money? Tears ran freely down my face now. Are you telling me you lied to me, that you used your son, my grandson, to get money out of me? It is not as simple as you put it. Yes, it is, I screamed, no longer caring who hurt us. You lied to me, you used me, and you allowed it. Worse yet, you signed as a guarantor on that promissory note. You are also part of this. Matthew got up abruptly from the table. His face was red, his fists clenched. You know what your problem is, Mom, that you do not understand that you are no longer the priority in my life. My priority is Jessica, my children, my future. I am not 8 years old anymore to be hanging from your skirts. I grew up. I have my own obligations, and frankly, I am tired of you making me feel guilty for living my life. I never asked to be your priority, I replied between sobs. I only asked you not to erase me, not to treat me like trash, not to allow your wife and your mother-in-law to humiliate me. Nobody humiliated you. You are being dramatic, victimizing yourself as always. As always, Matthew. This is the first time in my life I tell you how I feel. I always swallowed everything. I always said you were right. I always put your needs before mine. And this is how you pay me back. Matthew grabbed his jacket from the back of the chair. This conversation makes no sense. You are in an emotional moment and cannot think clearly. When you calm down, we will talk. I am perfectly calm. I lied, wiping my tears with violence. And I am seeing clearly for the first time in years. I see that I lost my son, that the boy I raised that I loved with all my being no longer exists. How dramatic, Mom. Seriously. He began walking toward the exit. Matthew, wait. I called him one last time. Do you remember when you were 9 years old and broke your arm? I slept at the hospital for 3 nights in an uncomfortable chair. I did not move from your side. Do you remember when your dad died and you were 27? I held you while you cried like a child. I told you everything was going to be okay. Do you remember all that Matthew stopped at the door? He did not turn to look at me, but he stood still. Because I do remember, son, and I do not throw it in your face. I remind you because that is true love, that love that asks for nothing in return, that love that I now realize you do not feel for me. He turned then, and in his eyes I saw something that destroyed me. Indifference. There was not even anger anymore, only a cold and calculated distance. Goodbye, Mom. Let me know when you stop being so dramatic. And he left. I stayed sitting there in that noisy coffee shop crying in front of my cold coffee that I never drank. People looked at me with curiosity or pity. I did not care. Because I had just lost my son. Not to death, not to an accident. I lost him to something worse, to his own decision to abandon me. I paid the $3 for the coffee and left there with my legs shaking. I got into my car and drove to my small house in the old neighborhood. The house where Matthew grew up, where his room was still intact with his soccer trophies and his diplomas. I entered and threw myself on my bed. I hugged the pillow and screamed. I screamed all the pain, all the rage, all the helplessness of a mother who is no longer wanted. I cried until I ran out of tears. And when I had nothing left to cry, something changed inside me, because the deepest pain is sometimes the door to the fiercest strength. And I had just crossed that door of no return. I spent 2 days locked in my house without answering calls. Not because I was destroyed. Not anymore. I was doing something I should have done a long time ago. Investigating. Because pain had clouded my sight for years, but now I saw with brutal clarity. And when a 67-year-old woman decides to stop being foolish, she becomes dangerous. I had the recordings. That was already pure gold. But I needed more. I needed to fully understand the chessboard where they had turned me into a pawn. I needed to know exactly who Brenda was, what she had, what she owed, and what her true game was. On Friday morning, I called my niece Patty. She works at a major bank in town in the loans department. She is a discreet, intelligent woman, the kind who knows how to get information without making noise. "Aunt Eleanor, what a pleasure to hear from you." Her voice sounded genuinely happy. "How are you?" "I need a favor. Patty and I need it to be between us." There was a pause. Patty knew that tone, the tone of when something serious was happening. "Tell me, Aunt, what do you need?" "Information about a person." "Brenda Mendez. She lives in the West Side District. She has a cosmetics business called Divine Beauty." "Is it legal what you are asking me?" she asked cautiously. "I just need to know if she has debts, if her business is active. Public information that anyone could get, but I do not know how to do it." Patty sighed. "Give me 2 days. I promise nothing, but I will see what I can find." While I waited, I did my own investigation. I searched on social media. Brenda had a very active Facebook profile where she showed off her successful business. Photos with expensive products, trips to beaches, luxury restaurants, everything very pretty. Too pretty to be true. But when I checked deeper, I found inconsistencies. The travel photos were recycled from previous years. The new products she sold appeared in cheap clearance groups. Her silver SUV, which she showed off as the latest model, had plates from 2018. Everything was smoke, a carefully constructed facade to appear what she was not. On Sunday afternoon, Patty called me. Her voice sounded serious. "Aunt, are you sitting down?" "Yes, honey." "Tell me, Brenda Mendez has serious financial problems. I found 5 credit cards maxed out. The total debt is $30,000. Her business, Divine Beauty, closed operations 8 months ago for lack of payment to the supplier. She has 2 pending lawsuits from clients who paid for products she never delivered, and her SUV is about to be repossessed because she owes 6 months of payments." Every word was a piece of the puzzle fitting perfectly. "And the $50,000 she is supposedly going to give for the down payment on my son's house. Aunt, that woman does not have $50,000. She barely has enough to eat. She lives off appearances and what she gets out of her daughter. She is a professional con artist. Can you send me all that in writing? Any official document, I am going to send you screenshots from the credit bureau. It is not official, but it shows the debts. Use it with care. Thank you, Patty. You do not know how much I appreciate it. Aunt, be careful. That woman sounds dangerous." "Do not worry, honey. I can be dangerous too when necessary." That same afternoon, I received the screenshots. Brenda Mendez, $30,000 in debt. Bankrupt business. Pending legal lawsuits. She was a financial ticking time bomb disguised as a successful businesswoman. But I needed more. I needed to fully understand what was happening with Matthew's new house. That $400,000 house they were supposedly going to buy with Brenda's support. I called Matthew. He answered after 5 rings. "What do you want, Mom?" His voice was cold. "I just want to know how the new house thing is going. I am happy for you guys." There was silence, mistrust. Why the sudden interest? "Because I am your mother, Matthew. Although you do not value it, I still worry about your future." he sighed. It is going well. We already have the lot reserved. In 2 weeks we sign the deed. Brenda is going to give the down payment and we will cover the rest with a mortgage loan. And the deed is going to be in whose name? Jessica's. We already told you at the party. It is to protect the children's assets. Did you review the papers, son? Do you know exactly what you are signing? Mom, please do not start with your paranoid thoughts. Jessica takes care of all that. She is more organized than I am. Matthew, I only ask that you read well before signing, that you have your own copy of the documents, that you do not sign anything without understanding it completely. Enough, Mom. I am tired of your insinuations. Jessica is my wife. I trust her. Period. That is fine, son. Just take care of yourself. He hung up without saying goodbye, but the call confirmed what I needed to know. Matthew was going to sign documents he had not read. He was going to put the house completely in Jessica's name without any legal protection for him. And he was doing it trusting in a $50,000 down payment that would never exist. It was a perfect trap, and my son was walking straight into it blindfolded. That night, I did not sleep. I was reviewing every detail, every piece of information I had collected. And that was when I found something else. Something that froze my blood. Reviewing old emails that Matthew had forwarded to me months ago about house paperwork, I found the name of the notary. Attorney Robert Stevens. I looked him up on the internet and discovered something disturbing. He had been sanctioned twice for irregularities in deeds. Nothing legally grave, but enough to raise suspicions. Coincidence that Jessica had chosen that specific notary I called the office, pretending to be Jessica. Good morning. This is Mrs. Jessica Mendez. I want to confirm the appointment for the deed signing of the house in the Orange Grove community. Ah, yes, Mrs. Mendez. We have your appointment scheduled for Friday the 29th at 10 in the morning. Any changes? No, just confirming that the documents are as we agreed. Everything in my name. Only right. That is correct, ma'am. Your husband signs as a witness and co-signer of the mortgage loan, but the property remains registered 100% in your name, just as you requested. Perfect. We will be there. I hung up with my hands shaking. Matthew was going to sign as a co-signer. He was going to pay the mortgage for 15 years, but the house would never be his. And if something happened with the marriage, he would lose everything and would still owe the money to the bank. It was theft, pure and simple. But there was something else I needed to investigate. The promissory note for the $10,000 I signed 6 months ago. What had really happened with that money, I searched through my old papers until I found the copy of the document. I had signed it so fast, so desperate to help my supposedly sick grandson that I had barely read it. But now, looking at it calmly, I noticed something. The note said, personal loan, but it did not specify for what. And Matthew had signed as a guarantor. If they did not pay me, I could sue legally, and if I did, Matthew would be jointly responsible for the debt. I kept that information like an ace up my sleeve. On Monday morning, I went to the bank where I have my savings account. I spoke with the manager, Mr. Reynolds, a man of about 50 who had always treated me well. Mrs. Eleanor, how can I help you? I need to know if I can legally claim a loan I gave. I have a signed promissory note. How much time has passed since the payment deadline expired? 6 months. Then yes, you can initiate a legal process. Do you have a copy of the document? Yes. I recommend you consult with a lawyer, but that note is a valid legal document. You can collect it through civil court. I left the bank with a small but significant smile because every piece of information was an arrow in my quiver, and I was preparing the complete arsenal. I had the recordings where they confessed their plans. I had the proof of Brenda's debts. I had the promissory note for the $10,000. I had knowledge of the legal trap they were preparing for Matthew. And now I only needed one more thing, an ally. Someone from the inside to help me expose all this in the most devastating way possible. On Tuesday afternoon, while I was drinking coffee in the kitchen of my small house, I received a call from an unknown number. Usually I do not answer, but something told me to do it. Mrs. Eleanor. The voice on the other side sounded young female nervous. Yes, who is speaking? I am Ashley. Ashley Mendez, Jessica's sister. My heart stopped. Why would my daughter-in-law's sister be calling me Ashley? Is everything okay? I need to talk to you in person. It is important, very important. There was urgency in her voice, but also fear. What is it about? I cannot say it over the phone. Can we meet today? Please, ma'am, believe me, I would not call you if it were not necessary. Something in her tone made me trust her. Or maybe it was that I had nothing left to lose. That is fine. Where do you know the corner cafe downtown? The one across from the church? Yes, I know it. In an hour, I will be there. I arrived 15 minutes early as always. The cafeteria was half full of tourists and students. I sat at a table in the back, away from the windows, where we could talk with privacy. Ashley arrived on time. I recognized her immediately, although I had only seen her 2 or 3 times at family gatherings. She was young, 26 years old, thin, with brown hair tied back in a ponytail. She was wearing jeans and a simple olive green blouse, nothing like the ostentatious style of her sister Jessica. She sat in front of me with nervous movements. Her eyes were red as if she had cried recently. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Eleanor," she said in a low voice. "Tell me what is happening, Ashley." She looked around, verifying that no one was listening to us. Then she leaned forward. "I know what my mom and my sister are doing to you, and it is not right. I cannot keep quiet anymore." I felt my skin crawl. "What do you know exactly?" Ashley took a deep breath, like preparing to jump off a cliff. "I know they got $10,000 out of you with a lie. I know they are planning to isolate you from your son and your grandchildren. I know my mom does not have the $50,000 she promised for the down payment on the house, and I know they already did all this before. With me." Those last words hit me like a fist. "With you?" Ashley nodded, her eyes filled with tears. 3 years ago, I was married to a wonderful man. His name was Frank. We had a small but profitable clothing store. We earned well. We were happy. But my mom started meddling. She told Frank that I needed more, that he should give me a better life. She convinced him to take out a loan to expand the business, $40,000. She paused to dry her tears with a napkin. My mom said she was going to manage the money, that she had experience in business. Frank trusted her. I trusted her. She was my mother. How could I not trust her? What happened to the money, I asked, although I already intuited the answer. She spent it. All of it. On paying her debts, on faking a lifestyle she did not have, on gifts for Jessica. When we wanted to recover it, she told us the business had failed, that we had lost everything. But I investigated. There never was any expansion. She never invested in anything. She just stole. And Frank Ashley broke down completely. She sobbed, covering her face with her hands. He did not resist the pressure of the debt, the stress, the constant fights because my mom made us feel guilty. She said we were bad managers, that we were failures. Frank fell into depression. And I did not know how to help him. We divorced a year ago. We lost the store. He went to Chicago. And I was left with the debts and a broken heart. I took her hand across the table. This girl was another victim of the same monster that was now devouring me. "I am so sorry, Ashley. And the worst is that my sister Jessica knew everything. She helped my mom. She learned from her. And now they are doing exactly the same thing with your son Matthew. The same strategy, the same steps, as if they had a manual on how to destroy families. Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Why risk it?" Ashley looked me straight in the eyes. There was determination in that young look. "Because I saw how they treated you at the party. I was there in the kitchen, and I heard everything they said afterward. I heard how they mocked you. And I saw myself 3 years ago keeping quiet when I should have spoken, letting them destroy my marriage without fighting." She wiped her tears with rage. "I am not going to allow them to do the same to another person. No more. I can no longer live with that guilt. Besides, Mrs. Eleanor, you were always kind to me. In the few times I saw you, you treated me with affection. You asked me how I was. No one else in that family does that. Not even my own mother. I felt an immediate connection with this broken but brave young woman. What do you propose we do?" "I have proof," said Ashley, taking a USB drive out of her purse. "Here are the documents of the loan my mom stole from us. Here are the text messages where she and Jessica planned how to manipulate Frank. Here are the bank statements proving the money was never invested in any business. Everything." I took the USB drive as if it were the most valuable treasure in the world. "And what do you want in return, Justice?" she replied with a firm voice. "I want my mom to pay for what she did. I want Jessica to understand that she cannot keep hurting people without consequences. And I want to help you save your son before it is too late. Ashley, if you do this, your family is going to hate you. Your mom, your sister, they are going to turn against you." She smiled sadly. "Mrs. Eleanor, they already hate me. Only they disguise it with fake smiles and empty hugs. They stopped being my family the day they decided to steal from me and destroy my marriage. I have nothing left to lose. But you do have something to save, your relationship with your son." We stayed in silence a moment, two women hurt by the same family, two different generations united by pain. "That is fine," I said finally. "Let's work together, but I need you to be sure. What we are going to do has no turning back." "I am sure," she replied without hesitation. "What do you have?" I told her everything. The recordings from the supermarket and the kitchen, the proof of Brenda's debts that Patty had gotten me, the promissory note for the $10,000, the information about the fraudulent deed of the house. Ashley's eyes opened wider and wider while I spoke. This is enough to destroy them legally," she whispered. "I do not want to just destroy them legally," I said with a firm voice. "I want everyone to know the truth. I want Matthew to see with his own eyes who these women really are. I want public justice." Ashley nodded slowly. "Then we need a plan, and we need to execute it before they sign the house deed. When is it? This Friday the 29th, in 4 days. Perfect, that gives us enough time." She took a notebook out of her purse and we began to plan. We were there for 2 hours in that downtown cafe designing the fall of Brenda and Jessica. Every detail, every movement, like two generals preparing for the final battle. When we finished, Ashley looked at me with a mixture of fear and hope. "Do you think it will work?" "It is going to work," I replied with a certainty I did not know I had, because this time the old doormats learned to bite. Ashley smiled a genuine smile, the first I had seen on her all afternoon. "My mom always says that older women are easy to manipulate because they are weak and sentimental. Well, your mom is about to learn that older women also know how to fight. And when we fight to win." We said goodbye with a long hug, a hug of allies of warriors. While I drove back to my house, I felt something I had not felt in weeks. Hope. Not the naive hope that everything would be fixed magically, but the fierce hope of someone who knows she has the weapons to defend herself, because the war was declared. And now we had an army. The next 3 days were a whirlwind of preparation. Ashley and I met every afternoon at my house, reviewing every detail of the plan until it was perfect. We could not fail. We would only have one chance. On Thursday night, 1 day before the deed signing, I received a call from Jessica that took me by surprise. "Mother-in-law, how are you?" Her voice sounded sweet, suspiciously sweet. "Good, Jessica. Did something happen?" "Nothing bad. On the contrary, tomorrow is my 33rd birthday. Do you remember? Well, actually, it was last week, but my mom wants to organize a bigger party, a family lunch this Saturday. With everyone, uncles, cousins, friends. She wants it to be special." I stayed silent, processing. Why would she be inviting me after how they treated me, and you want me to go? "Of course, mother-in-law. You are family. Besides, my mom insists. She says families should be united. Will you come?" "It is at 2 in the afternoon at the house." The trap was obvious. They wanted to have me there to humiliate me in front of more people to demonstrate to everyone who was in charge in that family. But what they did not know is that I also wanted to be there. "I will be there, Jessica. Thank you for inviting me." "Perfect. And mother-in-law, there is no need for you to bring anything. My mom is taking care of everything." She hung up. Ashley, who was sitting in my living room listening to the conversation, looked at me with bright eyes. "It is perfect, Mrs. Eleanor. Better than we planned. They are going to have witnesses. Many witnesses." "Exactly what we need." I replied with a smile that was no longer of a victim, but of a hunter. That night, I almost did not sleep. I went over the plan mentally again and again. Ashley would get a small portable projector borrowed from a friend. I would bring my laptop with all the evidence organized in folders, the recordings, the documents, everything. On Saturday morning, I woke up with my stomach churning, but not from fear, from anticipation. I dressed carefully, a burgundy pantsuit that made me look elegant but serious. I gathered my hair in a neat bun. I put on light makeup. I wanted to look strong, dignified, like the woman who was about to recover her life. At 1 p.m, Ashley arrived at my house. She carried the projector in a discreet backpack. "Ready?" she asked. "Ready," I replied, grabbing my laptop. We arrived at Matthew's house at 2 sharp. The driveway was full of cars. I recognized several. All of Jessica's extended family was there. The uncles, the cousins, even some neighbors. The door was open. We entered together. The house was decorated with balloons and streamers. A huge table full of expensive food, loud music playing. It was a celebration worthy of a queen. Brenda was the first to see us. Her smile froze when she saw Ashley with me. "Ashley, what are you doing here? We did not invite you." I invited her. I lied quickly. I thought it would be nice for the whole family to be gathered. Jessica appeared from the kitchen. Her face went pale seeing her sister. "Ashley, what?" "I came to celebrate you, sister," said Ashley with a sweet smile that hid daggers. "Can I not come to your party?" Matthew approached, confused. The guests started noticing the tension. "Mom, what is happening?" "Nothing, son. Your cousin Ashley came to accompany me. Is there any problem with that?" Brenda exchanged looks with Jessica. I could see the wheels turning in their heads. They wanted to kick us out, but could not do it in front of everyone without looking bad. "Of course there is no problem," said Jessica finally with a fake smile. "Come in. There is food for everyone." The party continued, but the tension was palpable. Brenda watched us from afar. Ashley and I sat in a corner waiting for the perfect moment. After an hour of food and forced conversation, the moment for the toast arrived. Brenda stood up in the middle of the living room, glass in hand, asking for attention. "Family, friends, thank you for being here, celebrating my daughter Jessica. But today, we do not only celebrate her birthday, we also celebrate something bigger, the future of this beautiful family." Everyone kept silent, attentive. "As many know, my daughter and my son-in-law Matthew are buying a new house. A beautiful house where my grandchildren will grow up happy. And I, as a mother who loves her daughter, am going to contribute $50,000 so that dream becomes a reality." Applause. Congratulations. Brenda shone under the attention. "Because that is what good mothers do," she continued, throwing me a poisoned look. "They support their children without conditions, without reproaches, without throwing past sacrifices in their faces." The hint was clear. Some guests looked at me with pity. It was my moment. I stood up. All gazes turned toward me. "You are right, Brenda. Good mothers support their children, and that is why I came today to support my son Matthew by showing him the truth." The silence became dense. "What are you talking about?" Mom asked Matthew, uncomfortable. "I am talking about lies, about manipulation, about theft." Ma'am Brenda raised her voice. "I am not going to allow you to come to my party to make a scene. It is not your party, Brenda. It is my son's house, and I have every right to speak." Ashley was already connecting the projector to the white wall of the living room. Matthew looked at her confused. "What are you doing?" "Showing you who your mother-in-law really is," I said, opening my laptop, "and who your wife is." "Matthew, get them out of here," screamed Jessica, hysterical. "Your mom is crazy." "Let her speak," said one of the uncles. "I want to hear this." "Me too," added Teresa, the neighbor. Brenda tried to approach the projector, but Ashley stood in the way. "You are not going to stop this, Mom. It is over." "Traitor," screamed Brenda. "You are a traitor." "No, Mom. I am the one who got tired of your lies." I pressed play on my laptop. The first recording began to play. Brenda's voice coming out of the speakers clear as crystal. "We almost achieved it. In 2 more months, when Matthew signs the deed to the house in your name, you convince him to cut ties with his mom. After all, we already got everything we could out of her. That old woman has nothing left to offer." The silence was sepulchral. All eyes turned toward Brenda. That is edited, stammered Brenda, pale. It is a montage. Seriously, I said calmly. Then let's listen to more. I played the second recording, the one from the kitchen during the first party. That woman is dumber than I thought. We got $10,000 out of her with the story about Alex's operation, and she did not even ask to see medical receipts. A true idiot. Matthew's face changed. I saw the color drain from his cheeks. What operation? He asked with a trembling voice. Alex never had any operation. Jessica tried to approach him, but Matthew backed away. Love, let me explain. Explain what? That you stole $10,000 from my mom, lying to her about our son. I projected the documents then. Brenda's debts, $30,000, her bankrupt business, the legal lawsuits. This is the woman who says she has $50,000 to give you, I said out loud so everyone could hear. A woman who owes almost $30,000, who does not even have enough to pay for her own SUV. Brenda crumbled into an armchair, covering her face. And now I continued. Thanks to my niece Ashley, I am going to show you that this is not new, that they already did it before. Ashley took the floor with a trembling but firm voice. My mom and my sister stole $40,000 from me. They destroyed my marriage, they left me in ruins, and now they are doing the same with Matthew. She projected the documents of her case, the messages, everything. The room exploded in murmurs, shouts, accusations. This is defamation, screamed Brenda. I am going to sue you. Sue us, I replied with frozen calm. I have a lawyer waiting, and I have every proof documented. Matthew approached Jessica. His eyes were full of tears. Is it true? Is all this true? Jessica did not answer. She just cried. Answer me, screamed Matthew. It is your fault, exploded Jessica finally. If you earned more money, if you were more ambitious, we would not have to do these things. The confession was left floating in the air like toxic smoke. Matthew looked at her as if she were a stranger. Then he turned toward me, his red eyes full of shame and pain. And in that moment I saw my son return. The real Matthew, the one I had raised, the one who had been lost but now was waking up. The chaos that followed was indescribable. The living room turned into a hive of overlapping voices. Jessica's uncles shouted demanding explanations. The cousins stood up from their seats. Teresa, the neighbor, squeezed my shoulder with solidarity. But I only had eyes for my son. Matthew was standing in the middle of the room, looking alternately at Jessica and Brenda, as if he were seeing them for the first time. His chest rose and fell with agitated breaths. His fists were clenched at his sides. Matthew, love, please. Jessica tried to approach again. Do not touch me. My son's voice came out like a roar I had never heard from him. Do not you dare touch me. Son, this is a misunderstanding. Brenda tried to intervene, recovering some composure. Your mom is manipulating everything. She is taking things out of context because she is jealous of... Shut up. Matthew's scream made the glasses on the table tremble. Enough lies. He turned toward me. His eyes were red, but there was something in them I had not seen in months. Clarity. Mom. The $10,000. His voice broke. Is it true? Did they get that money out of you saying Alex was sick? I nodded in silence. And you? He looked at Jessica with a mixture of disgust and pain. You made me sign that promissory note as a guarantor. You told me it was for medical expenses for our son, that it was urgent, and I signed without reading because I trusted you, because you are my wife. We needed the money for other things, Matthew answered Jessica now with a defensive tone. The house, the children, the expenses. Other things, interrupted Matthew. You lied to him about our son's health. You used Alex as an excuse to steal from my mom. One of Jessica's uncles, a heavy-set man named Roger, stood up. Brenda, is it true about the debts? The $30,000. Brenda tried to maintain composure, but her mask was cracking. Roger, they are temporary problems. All businesses go through difficult streaks. Your business closed 8 months ago, screamed Ashley. You have no job. You live off scamming your own family. You have no right to speak. Brenda turned toward her younger daughter with poison in her eyes. You and your failed husband lost your money for being incompetent. No. Ashley took a step forward, trembling but firm. You stole from us. And now the whole family knows it. You can no longer hide behind lies, and the $50,000 you promised for the down payment, I said, projecting the last document on the wall. Here is your bank statement, Brenda. Ashley got it legally. You have $200 in your account. That is all. The murmur of the guests turned into a roar. Jessica's cousin, a woman named Sophie, stood up furious. Brenda, did you lie to me too? You borrowed $500 from me 2 months ago, saying it was for an urgent medical treatment, and $300 from me to repair your SUV, added another cousin. Like dominoes falling, more people began to confess the loans Brenda had never paid back. $200 here, $500 there. The woman had built an empire of lies supported by the good faith of her family. Brenda got up from the armchair, trying to recover some dignity. This is a plot. Ashley and this resentful old woman allied to destroy me because you tell the truth, I interrupted her with a firm voice. Yes, I allied with Ashley. Because I was tired of being the doormat where you wiped your shoes. Because I was tired of seeing how you destroyed my son with your poison. I walked toward the center of the room where everyone could see me. For months I wondered what I had done wrong. Why had my son abandoned me? Why did they treat me like trash? I blamed myself. I thought I was the one who did not understand modern families, that I was the old-fashioned one, the one in the way. My voice became stronger. But it was not me. It was you. I pointed at Brenda and Jessica. You with your systematic manipulation, with your calculated lies, with your perfect plan to squeeze every last dollar out of my son and then get rid of me like trash. Matthew let himself fall onto the sofa, his head in his hands. Mom, I do not know what to say. I approached him. I knelt in front of my son, something my 67-year-old knees protested, but I did not care. You do not have to say anything now, Matthew. I just need you to understand something. I never stopped loving you. Never. But I did stop allowing them to hurt me. I treated you horribly, sobbed Matthew. I said terrible things to you. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I know, son, and that hurts. It is going to hurt for a long time. But I did not come here to destroy you. I came to save you. I took another document out of my purse. Tomorrow you were going to sign the deed for a house that was going to be only in Jessica's name. You would be a co-signer of the mortgage loan. That means you would pay the mortgage for 15 years. But if something happened with your marriage, you would lose everything. The house would not be yours, and you would still owe $400,000 to the bank. I handed him the papers Ashley had obtained from the notary. Matthew took them with trembling hands and began to read them. His face transformed with every line. This cannot be real. It is completely real, intervened Ashley. I reviewed the documents with a lawyer. It was a perfect legal trap. In 5 years, when the house increased in value, my sister would divorce you. She would keep the house that would already be worth more, and you would be left on the street in debt and with nothing. Jessica finally exploded. All this is your fault, Matthew, she screamed with a hysteria she could no longer control. If you were a real man, if you earned enough money, if you were not so weak and so attached to your mother, none of this would have been necessary. The silence that followed was brutal. Matthew raised his head slowly. There were no longer tears in his eyes, only a coldness I had never seen in him. Get out, he said with a low but lethal voice. What Jessica blinked, confused. That you leave. My house, now. This is also my house. No. Matthew stood up. I paid for this house with the down payment my mom gave me with my own monthly payments. Your name is not on any document, so you leave. Now. And you take your mother with you. You cannot kick me out. I am your wife. We have children. We have children that I am not going to let grow up seeing how their mother and grandmother manipulate and steal from people. Matthew's voice was pure steel. Tomorrow I speak with a lawyer. I am going to ask for a divorce, and I am going to fight for full custody of Alex and Sophie. They are not going to give them to you, screeched Jessica. Maybe not, admitted Matthew, but I am going to try. Because now I understand that the true danger for my children was not poverty. It was you two. Brenda tried one last desperate move. Matthew, think about the children. You cannot destroy a family for a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. Matthew looked at her with contempt. I have audio recordings where you admit everything. I have documents that prove every lie. There is no misunderstanding. There is only truth. He turned toward the guests. This party is over. Please, everyone leave. People began to leave in silence, some throwing us looks of support, others simply uncomfortable for having witnessed the collapse of a family. Roger, Jessica's uncle, approached Brenda. Mom, come with me. You need to get out of here. Brenda, finally defeated, allowed her son to take her out of the house, but before crossing the door, she threw me a look of pure hate. This does not end here, old woman. For me, it already ended, I replied calmly. You are just a closed chapter. Jessica took her purse, crying hysterically. Matthew, please, leave Jessica. Tomorrow I send your things to your mother's house. For now, just leave. Jessica left, slamming the door, making the walls shake. Ashley, Matthew, and I were left alone in that destroyed living room, deflated balloons on the floor, food untouched on the tables, the projector still on, showing the last document on the wall. Matthew let himself fall again onto the sofa. I sat next to him. Ashley remained standing, discreet, giving us space. Mom. Matthew's voice came out broken. Will you be able to forgive me someday? I did not answer immediately. I let the question float in the air. Because some wounds do not heal with a simple I forgive you, but they can begin to heal with the truth. I stood looking at my son for a long moment. His face was destroyed, swollen from crying, marked by shame. He seemed to have aged 10 years in a single afternoon, and for the first time in months, I saw the boy I had raised again, vulnerable, broken, but finally awake. Forgive you. I repeated his question in a low voice. Matthew, forgiveness is not something that is given as an instant gift. It is a long and painful road. I know, Mom. I know. He covered his face with his hands. I was an idiot, a terrible son. I treated you like trash. I chose to believe them instead of trusting you. How could I be so blind? Because you wanted to believe, I said softly. Because when one loves, one wants to trust, and they use that love as a weapon. Ashley approached timidly. Mrs. Eleanor, I should go. You guys need to talk. No, I said firmly. You are also part of this. Stay. Matthew raised his head and looked at Ashley for the first time, really. Thank you, he told her with a broken voice. Thank you for having the courage to speak. I do not know what would have happened if you guys had not intervened. I do know, I replied. Tomorrow you would have signed those papers. In 5 years, Jessica would have left you with nothing, and I would have ended my days alone without my son, without my grandchildren, asking myself where I failed. The silence filled the room. Then Matthew spoke, his voice barely a whisper. What do I do now, Mom? I have 2 children. I have a destroyed marriage. I have debts, and I have so much fear of having lost you forever. I got up from the sofa. My knees protested, but I ignored them. I walked toward the window, looking at the street, where still some guests were saying goodbye, murmuring among themselves about the scandal they had just witnessed. Matthew, I did not come here to destroy your life. I came to save you. But saving you does not mean everything goes back to how it was before. I cannot be that mother who swallows everything and forgives instantly. I turned to look at him directly. I need you to understand something. The damage you did to me is real. The words you said to me are not erased. The contempt I felt does not disappear with an apology. I understand, said Matthew with tears running down his face. I understand, and I do not expect you to forgive me tomorrow or next month. I just need to know if there is any possibility that someday— Yes, I interrupted him. There is a possibility, but it is going to require work. On your part, a lot of work. Whatever it is, Mom, whatever it is. I took another envelope out of my purse, the last document I had prepared. This is the promissory note for the $10,000. You signed as a guarantor. Legally, I can sue you and collect it from you with interest and everything. It would be $12,000. Matthew went pale but nodded. You have every right. I will pay you. I do not know how, but I will pay you every dollar. I do not want your money, Matthew. What I want, something more valuable. I want you to go to therapy, you alone without Jessica. I want you to learn to see how they manipulated you. I want you to work on yourself, and I want, when you are ready, for you to look for me. not because you feel obligated, but because you really understood the damage you caused. I handed him the promissory note. When you do all that, when you really have changed, we will tear this paper up together. But until then, I withdraw. Not from your life completely, but from this circus. Mom listened to me well. My voice became firmer. I am going to continue being the grandmother of Alex and Sophie. I will come to see them when you allow me. But our relationship as mother and son needs to be rebuilt from zero, with respect, with boundaries, with honesty. Matthew stood up and walked toward me. For a moment I thought he was going to hug me, but he stopped 2 feet away. And the money. The $12,000. I need to pay them to you somehow. There is a way, I said, taking out another document. This is a civil lawsuit against Jessica and Brenda for fraud and scam. Ashley and I prepared it with a lawyer. If you testify in our favor, if you tell everything you know, we can win. And the money we recover, we will divide. Me, Ashley, and you, me. They also scammed you, Matthew. You are also a victim, although you were also an accomplice. Ashley intervened then. The lawyer says we could recover up to $50,000 if we add up all the fraudulent loans my mom made. It is not going to be easy. It will take months, maybe a year, but it is possible. Matthew looked at the document. Then he looked at me. I will do it. I will testify. I will tell them everything. They deserve it. Good, I put the papers away. Then here ends the chapter of Eleanor the Fool, and begins that of Eleanor who respects herself, and us, asked Matthew with a trembling voice. You and me. We start over, slowly, with respect, like two people who need to learn to trust again. Finally, I approached him. I put my hand on his cheek, feeling the warm tears under my palm. I love you, Matthew. I never stopped loving you a single day, but I also love myself now, and that means I am not going to allow them to hurt me again. I promise you I will not do it, Mom. Do not promise me, I said softly. Show me, with actions, with time, with real changes. We hugged then, a long, silent hug full of pain and hope at the same time. Ashley wiped her tears discreetly from her corner. When we separated, Matthew asked, "And what follows now?" "Now I go to my house," I said, taking my purse. "You are going to stay here. You are going to process all this, and you are going to begin to make decisions like the adult man you are. Ashley has the lawyer's contact. Tomorrow you cancel that deed signing. You call a family lawyer to initiate the divorce, and you start therapy. Can I call you? Yes, but not every day. Give me space, Matthew. I also need to heal." I walked toward the door. Ashley followed me. Before leaving, I turned one last time. "Oh, and Matthew, the children, Alex and Sophie, do not fill their heads with hate toward their mother. They are not to blame for any of this. When you are capable of talking about Jessica without bitterness, then you will know you really healed. And if I cannot, and if the resentment is too big, that is why you are going to go to therapy," I replied with a sad smile, "to learn that forgiving is not forgetting. It is letting go of the poison so it does not kill you from the inside." I left that house with Ashley by my side. The fresh afternoon air hit my face, and for the first time in months I breathed deeply without feeling that crushing weight on my chest. Ashley hugged me in the parking lot. "We made it," she whispered. "We made it," I repeated. But now comes the hard part. Rebuilding. Do you think Matthew will change? I do not know, Ashley. Honestly, I do not know. But I gave him the chance. The rest depends on him. And you. What are you going to do now? I smiled. A genuine smile I had not felt on my face in a long time. I am going to live, to recover my life, to stop being just Matthew's mom or Jessica's mother-in-law. I am going to be Eleanor. Eleanor Roberts, a 67-year-old woman who still has a lot to give to the world. I like that, said Ashley. And us. Will we stay in touch? Of course. Warriors who fight together stay together. We said goodbye with another hug. Ashley left in her car and I in mine. While I drove back to my little house in the old neighborhood, I thought about everything that had happened, about how a simple trip to the supermarket had uncovered a whole hell of lies. I thought about Kevin the cashier who had the courage to whisper the truth to me. Mentally, I thanked him. I thought about Patty, my niece at the bank, who risked her job to get me information. I thought about Ashley, who had the courage to betray her own family to do the right thing. And I thought about myself, about the Eleanor from a month ago who swallowed everything. And about the Eleanor of now, who had learned that self-love is not selfishness, it is survival. Because sometimes the most revolutionary act a woman can do is simply refuse to be trampled on. And that day, I had started my revolution. 3 months later, on a Tuesday morning, I was in my kitchen preparing dough for pot pies. The radio was playing an old Frank Sinatra song, which reminded me of Robert. The sun entered through the window, illuminating the pots of basil and mint I had started growing. The house smelled of flour and butter, of a true home. My phone rang. It was Ashley. "Mrs. Eleanor, did you see your mail?" "No, honey, I am making pies." "What happened?" "The lawyer sent the documents. The lawsuit proceeded. The judge ruled in our favor. Brenda has to pay $40,000 divided among all those affected." My legs went weak. I sat on the kitchen chair, wiping my hands full of dough on my apron. "Are you sure?" "Completely. Of course she does not have the money now. But the judge ordered the seizure of her SUV and her assets. With time, we will recover something. Not everything, but something. It was not the full $10,000 they had stolen from me. Maybe I would recover $5,000 or $6,000 with luck, but it was not the money that mattered. It was the justice. It was that a judge, someone impartial, had said, "These women are wrong. These women stole." Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for everything. No, ma'am. Thanks to you, for teaching me that it is never too late to defend yourself. After hanging up, I stayed sitting, looking at my wrinkled hands stained with dough. These hands that had worked for 67 years, that had carried my son, that had mended clothes, that had signed that promissory note with blind trust. These hands that now knew how to defend themselves. The doorbell pulled me out of my thoughts. I cleaned myself up and went to open. It was Matthew. I saw him once a week now, always on Tuesday mornings. It was part of his therapy, establishing routines, creating new habits. He looked different, thinner with deep circles under his eyes, but also with something in his eyes he did not have before. Awareness. "Hi, Mom," he said with a shy smile. "Come in, son. I am making pot pies." We entered the kitchen. Matthew sat in the same chair where he used to do his homework as a child. He watched me work the dough in silence for a moment. "How are things going?" I asked without looking at him, concentrated on my hands. "Better. The divorce is almost finalized. Jessica did not fight custody in the end. I think she realized there was no point. The kids are with me, Monday through Friday with her on weekends. And how are Alex and Sophie confused, sad sometimes, but the child psychologist says it is normal, that with time they will adapt." I nodded. It was not my place to intervene in how he managed his children. Not anymore. That was his responsibility now. And therapy, hard. Very hard. Matthew ran his hand through his hair. The therapist makes me see things I do not want to see. How was I an accomplice? How did I choose the comfort of believing them instead of using my judgment? How I treated you? His voice broke slightly on those last words. "It is part of the process," I said softly. "It hurts to see our own mistakes, but it is necessary. Mom, I want you to know that I understand if you can never forgive me completely. I understand that I broke something between us that maybe never repairs fully." I left the dough and washed my hands. I sat in front of him at the table. I looked him straight in the eyes. "Matthew, forgiveness is not an event. It is a process. Every week you come that you show me with actions that you are changing is a step. Every time you respect my boundaries is another step. I cannot tell you I already forgave you everything because it would be a lie, but I can tell you I am walking in that direction. Is it enough?" "For now, yes." Matthew nodded. He took an envelope out of his jacket. "I brought you something." I opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $1,500. "What is this?" "It is the first payment of the $12,000 I owe you. I know you said you did not want the money, but I do want to pay it to you. I cannot change the past, but I can honor my debts. I am going to pay you $200 every month until completing everything, with interest." I looked at the check, then I looked at him, and I saw something that filled me with hope. A man taking responsibility. Thank you, Matthew. There is something else, he continued. I sold some furniture Jessica left, expensive things her mom had given. With that money, I opened a savings account for you. It is $1,000, so you have a backup. Tears pricked my eyes, but I did not let them out. You did not have to do that. Yes, I did, because for years you were my backup, and I left you alone when you needed me most. I will never be able to compensate that completely, but I can try. We stayed in silence, a comfortable silence, not like before, tense and full of unsaid things, but a silence of two people who are learning to be together again. The kids want to see you, said Matthew after a moment. They ask about you, especially Sophie. She says she misses your stories. And do you want them to see me? Yes, but only when you are ready. I'm not going to pressure you. Next Saturday, I decided. Bring them next Saturday. We will make pot pies together. Alex always liked helping me with the dough. The smile that lit up Matthew's face reminded me of the boy he had been. Seriously, seriously. But Matthew, listen to me. My grandchildren are my grandchildren. I am not going to allow anyone, neither you nor Jessica, to use them as weapons. I am going to see them because I love them, not because it is an obligation for you or a prize for me. Understood, Mom. Matthew stayed an hour more. He helped me wrap pies, something he had not done since he was a teenager. His hands were clumsy. He broke the crust, but he laughed at himself. And I laughed with him. When he left, I stayed in my kitchen, surrounded by pies ready to bake. I looked around my small house, the walls that needed paint, the old but clean furniture, the photo of Robert in the living room smiling at me from the past. This house was not big, it was not luxurious, but it was mine, my space, my peace. 2 days later, a Thursday afternoon, Kevin from the supermarket called me. I had given him my number after everything that happened, thanking him for having opened my eyes. Mrs. Eleanor, do you have plans this weekend? Why, son, it is just that. Well, I am trying to open a small business selling food to go. And I remembered you make incredible pies. I tried them once at a block party. Would you be interested in being my partner? I provide the small place I rented. You provide the recipe and the experience. I stayed silent for a moment. A business. At my 67 years, Kevin, I know nothing about business, but you do know how to cook and I know sales. We could make a good team, nothing big at the beginning, just weekends. Let's see how it goes. I thought about the $1,500 Matthew had given me, the $1,000 in the savings account, the money I would eventually recover from the lawsuit. I thought about my life, how I had spent it, always serving others, working for others, giving for others. And what if for once I did something for myself? Give me a week to think about it, I said finally, and if I accept, we make a formal contract, no verbal promises. Perfect. I like that, ma'am. Protecting your interests. When I hung up, I looked at myself in the hallway mirror. My reflection returned the gaze. A 67-year-old woman with gray hair, with wrinkles, with visible and invisible scars, but also with bright eyes, with a straight back, with recovered dignity. Saturday arrived, and with it my grandchildren. Alex came running to hug me. Sophie clung to my leg. Matthew stayed at the door observing with tears in his eyes. Grandma shouted Alex. Dad said we are going to make pies. That is right, my love, and you are going to be my main helper. We passed the afternoon between laughter, dough, and stories. Matthew stayed but kept to the sidelines, letting me enjoy my grandchildren, respecting my space learning. When they left with bags full of pies, Sophie hugged me tight. I love you, Grandma. Do not go away again. I am not going my heaven. Now I am staying, but on my own terms. That night alone in my house, I opened a new notebook. On the first page, I wrote, Eleanor Roberts, Project Grandma's Pot Pies, partner, 50%, initial investment $2,000. Then on the next page, I wrote something more important. At my 67 years, I learned that true love is not sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It is loving from integrity. It is giving without losing yourself. It is forgiving without forgetting. It is being a grandmother without being a doormat. It is being a mother without being a martyr. I learned that it is never too late to recover your life. to say enough, to defend yourself, to shine. And I learned that sometimes the whisper of a stranger in a supermarket can save your whole life. I closed the notebook and put it in my nightstand. The next day, a new chapter would begin, one where I was the protagonist of my own story. Because true wealth was never in the money I gave nor in the sacrifices I made. It was always in the courage to refuse to be less than what I deserve, and that no one could ever take away from me. If this story touched something inside your heart, if it made you reflect on your own boundaries, on your own worth, leave me your comment. Tell me, where are you watching us from? What part of this story resonated most with you? Like if you believe someone else needs to hear this. And subscribe to keep accompanying me in these life stories that hurt, that teach, but above all, that heal. Because in the end, we all deserve to be protagonists of our own lives. It is never too late to start over. It is never too late to recover your dignity. See you in the next story. And remember, the respect you give yourself sets the respect you receive from the world.